Hey now guys, it's me, it's Knockout 21. How are y'all doing today? Alright, and I know it's been a while, but I had trouble getting an idea how to approach this game. I got a script in front of me, and even that, I couldn't... Oh god. This is what happens when you play a classic game and it's not as good as you originally thought. When you're a kid, things seem so much better that you kind of accept anything, and then when you play things as an adult, you see the flaws and it kind of ruins things for you. And yeah, this is what Broken Helix kind of did for me. I guess I might as well get to it. Broken Helix is a third-person action platformer, is a third-person action shooter with various objectives that either involve protecting someone, fetching something, activating something, or blowing stuff up. The people Jake interacts with will either guide him through his mission, point him in the right direction, or will try to kill him. It kind of depends on how you interact with them. Yes, there are dialogue options in this game. Yeah, I was kind of... At the time, I thought it was like the greatest thing ever because, they'll say something different depending on your mood. So, it's not as thorough as something like Fallout or Mass Effect, but there is something there which I thought was pretty cool at the time. Now, while you're playing this, you gotta be careful though. You're on a sort of a time limit. There's this guy called Black Dawn who's going down level by level, exterminating anyone and everyone he sees. So you have to be done with whatever you're doing on that level and move on to the next. This keeps the tension up and makes you think about your next move. This, however, prevents you from thoroughly exploring the level and risk missing a crucial ammo or some health power-ups, or even missing a weapon altogether. Luckily, you can hear his radio chatter between his teammates, giving you a general idea of where he's at.
What is that, man?
A hydrant.
Not for long. Woo, messy, very messy.
Gas levels are rising.
Sorry, I had tacos for lunch.
Knock it off, soldier.
All right, who cut one?
Gameplay is a little bit clunky. Aiming a weapon precisely is difficult due to Jake being in front of the camera. So your best tactic is to aim in general direction and hope it hits. This view also has the potential of having Jake run into like hazards and stuff. And this camera angle prevents you from seeing some of the aliens that might have spawned right outside the shot. And talking about shots, there's a decent amount of weapons located throughout Area 51. You'll start off with a stun shot, but eventually you come across a plasma shot, rapid fire, grenades, flamethrowers, rocket launcher, and finally the alien boom shot. At this point, I really don't know what to call it. I didn't see it on the instruction manual. All of these weapons, besides the grenade launcher, uses the same energy power source as ammo. This is somewhat convenient, however, be wary that some weapons deplete faster than others. Now, if in case I forgot to mention, this game has 4 different paths, depending on who you choose to side with. That's right, we're talking about 4 different endings here, which was pretty new to me outside of RPGs. Back then, you play the game and you get from point A to point B and you just get one single ending. But in this one, you're able to get 4 different endings, depending on who you talk to, what you do, and so on and so forth. Depending on the route you take, your enemies will either be soldiers, crazed scientists, mutants, robots, or aliens. So there's a bit of a variety, but they all more or less behave the same way. Once they see Jake, they'll start shooting, so the AI isn't very all that fleshed out. Though there are moments where they ignore him altogether. They're pretty slow and uneasy to take down. Though some will take shots at Jake from a distance, so keep an eye on that. Controlling Jake feels stiff. He walks forward and backwards by pushing up and down, strafes left and right by pushing L1 and R1, and aims up and down with L2 and R2. This was pretty common in games like this back in the day. Another example of this would be Duke Nukem Total Meltdown. So it does take a while to get used to. But aiming up and down is painfully slow. You can feel it especially when enemies are above you shooting at you, and you have to like kind of move and angle yourself and push R2 or L2 and kind of hope you see them so you can land a couple of hits. What's even more frustrating though is how do you select an item? You gotta push start and select your item that way. Things such as keys, armor, health, or energy just to reload your weapon. Now, you guys are hearing me out and you say that's pretty standard of any game like that. But the problem is when you push start, the game is still going on. So if you walk into a room, you push start, an enemy could be walking in a room and start attacking you while you're in the menu, which I don't find cool at all. Now, selecting a weapon isn't as bad. All you gotta do is hold the select and push like square, triangle, X, or circle, and you'll be able to scroll through your weapons that way. However, my biggest gripe in terms of control is gotta be some of the platforming segments. Jake jumps at a pretty short distance, so when you're jumping from platform to platform, you gotta be really precise. So if you're playing this for the first time, most likely you're gonna end up falling into a pit a couple of times. Luckily though, there are not a lot of platforming segments. Control setups like these were pretty common back in the day, and although they're not terrible, they do require some time to get used to. Now you're probably wondering, why couldn't they just use the PlayStation 1 analog control? I will admit this game was released around the same time as the PlayStation 1 analog control. However, I don't think the developers knew about it, so they weren't able to utilize that control. Now, in case I didn't say this before, yeah, Broken Helix looks pretty bad. Let's be honest, most PlayStation 1 games at that time looked pretty bad. You know, it has a low poly count, the weird textures, etc., etc. But the use of colors does make this game look kind of unique. The purple and blue lights give off this weird sci-fi vibe that I find pretty cool. And it never feels like you're walking down the same corridor again and again. Unfortunately, there's where the praise for the graphics end. In case you haven't noticed, there's a border around the damn action screen. And this gets pretty annoying right away, especially since the view is pretty narrow, making it frustrating while in battle. And if they were going to do this, why not make it into a first-person shooter? And I don't get why this is the case, since most games of this nature were able to fill up the screen back in the day. My guess is to keep a stable frame rate, but most of the time there's not a lot of stuff going on. The CG movie sequences could have been done a little bit better in my opinion. The models do look a little bit better than the in-game models, but they're still really blocky. However, there is a bit of a variety in terms of the death scenes for Jake whenever he dies, and I kind of find those a little bit entertaining. There's not much in terms of music. The soundtrack's pretty small. There's mostly a lot of ambient sound and things of that nature. And it matches what's going on the screen, you know, like such as if you're in a creepy cavern, there's a nice ambient track to go along with that. Or when you're in the middle of a boss fight. What this game focuses on more though would be the voice acting. Now, in case you guys didn't know, Bruce Campbell is the voice of Jake Burton, the main character. His performance leaves something to be desired.
Nearby would blow up the force field surrounding the base.
Can't believe I'm working for this wacko.
What?
Oh, I said working for you is really wacky.
It sounds like he's not really that into it sometimes, which interrupts the flow of the dialogue, especially since a since the other voice actors are really trying. And everyone from the scientist that sounds like Jack Nicholson to the Arnold Schwarzenegger ripoff Black Dawn give a pretty decent performance. It also doesn't help that the music pauses every time Jake begins to talk, which is often either making some snide comments or when he's talking to an NPC. Though this was common back in the day. Overall, I give Broken Helix a D. Though it does have some enjoyable moments, there's a lot of flaws with this. There are moments of frustration attributed to either the camera, the controls, or the combination of the two. It's still pretty playable, but there are other games out there that do a better job. However, if you're interested in this game, it fetches for around $10. So if you ever see this like at a flea market or a mom and pop game store, I say give it a try. Anyway, this was Knockout 21. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And like always, have a good one. Take care, you guys.